Hello and welcome to Record Sports Hotline Live. My name is Daniel Caw and I am positively enraptured to be joined by Record Sports Keith Jackson and Craig Swan, guys.
You're not, tell the truth, you've done a rubbish day today, haven't you?
It's been a brutal day, to be fair.
Stop pretending, just be real.
Well, I've had car trouble today. Viewers, I broke down. I was in a hard shoulder for 4 hours. So I'm actually quite lucky to make the Hotline Live, but given we were the dream team yesterday, I thought, I need to keep this going.
I get sent a text saying that Daniel has broken down. No mention of the car. I just thought I had an episode here. Was it all right?
That's been coming for a while. Well, look, I am obviously delighted I've made the Hotline Live. One man who might not be particularly delighted by tonight's show is Philippe Clement, because a lot of the comments we have coming up from viewers doesn't make for good reading for the Rangers manager. And before we go into that too in depth, Keith, I think we wanted to talk a little bit about the Premiership's main sponsor, William Hill.
Well, that's right. The league sponsors are now inviting people to bet on whether or not Philippe Clement will survive at Rangers as far as Christmas. I think they've opened up a book on it. Monday 21st of October, Rangers manager Philippe Clement is 5-4 with William Hill to leave the Ibrox club before Christmas, following his side's defeat to Clement on Sunday. The Belgian appears to have the backing of the board, though, and is 4-7 to still be in the club come December 25th. I think when these things happen, Swanee, when books start opening up on whether or not a manager can make it to Christmas or not, it very rarely ends well, does it?
No,
unless you've got a winning bet.
Yeah, I wouldn't know about that. I think there's been a sea change. I just feel a sea change in the last 24 hours. I think there's been an awful lot has gone on at Rangers, and an awful lot has been deflected to off the pitch, and quite rightly so. And a lot of the supporters' ire has been against the things that have been happening off the field, and positions been vacant and that type of thing, and the Ibrox scenario when they couldn't get opened earlier in the season and blah 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 blah. And you felt that Philippe Clement was being cut some slack, quite a lot of slack by the Rangers supporters. I just feel that since Rugby Park that's changed.
Yeah.
Not with them all, but you know that way you just feel it in the wind that performance yesterday, the timing of it after Celtic and Aberdeen.
He's given them nothing, Swanee.
Yeah, I know. But
he's given them nothing.
I just feel it just doesn't feel good for him. It doesn't feel good for him.
Well, actually, Daniel, going through some stats, right? So, in he's had a year on the job, obviously. He actually, when he first came in, when we all saw that, we all saw the results, we all saw that they got themselves back into a battle at the top of the table with Celtic. I think his first 33 games, 26 wins, 3 defeats, 4 draws, 78% win rate. If you go back in time to, I think it was in April when Rangers played Celtic at Ibrox, 3-3 draw, and Philippe Clement took his players in a lap of honour. He basically thought he won the league that day, when I think, and I remember saying at the time, Rangers lost the opportunity to win the league that day.
It was fascinating that day. Yep.
Well, since that, he's had 24 games, 12 wins, 7 defeats, 5 draws. That's a win rate at 50%. That's even I can work that out. 50% is absolutely horrendous.
Yeah, that's a terrible
for a Rangers manager. And just for an example, Swanee, Pedro Caixinha, the man in the bush, he gets sacked at 54%. So when you look, and this is why I'm saying Philippe Clement is giving them nothing. He's giving the fans nothing to hold on to, nothing to look at and think, do you know what, this guy is getting it right. I can see where he's going. Yes, we might need to tough this one out for a few months, but you can see the progression. You can see what the plan is. There is no plan.
No.
There seems to be no clear strategy, no defined system or identity to the way that they play. And I just don't know how much longer. And I genuinely, as we said last night, it might well come to the point that the thing that saves Philippe Clement is the fact that there's nobody there to make a decision on his future.
I think we touched on it yesterday, that the most worrying thing for Philippe Clement is the team looks to be regressing.
Yeah, it is.
From that point that you mentioned in April, that point where he was in his management reign at Rangers, the team since then looks to have gone backwards. Now, We have all spoken about it, and I was very much an advocate of it is going to get worse before it gets better if you're going
You were
to
right.
change these whole if you're going to change this whole thing around, and you're going to have to bring in new players, and we said that people are going to have to be patient because it might be horrible for a spell. But you want to be seeing something. If you're a Rangers fan, you want to be seeing something.
Yeah.
And at the moment, you're not seeing anything. Even the games that have been won recently, the 1-0 win at Tannadice.
They've been horrible to watch.
The 1-0 game. I mean, the 1-0 victory over Hibs at Ibrox is probably the game where Hibs have emerged with most credit this season. A lot of people say, Hibs played really well, and they did well, and they were in the game. And that was as much down to Rangers just being flat again.
Yeah, and a real tough watch. A real tough watch.
Just nothing there. Like if there's even the odd performance when they're swashbuckling and doing well, and then they throw in a game like yesterday, you go, well, okay.
Well, that doesn't happen either. There's
of-
another damning stat floating about,
Yeah.
which we saw earlier, and I think took us back a little bit. Only scored one away goal in the league this season.
Yeah,
That's the lowest. That's the lowest number for
That's
any
crazy.
of the sides in the top 12.
That's
And it tells you that there's a major flaw in the way that they're playing their football. There is no style, structure. There's not a lot of attacking done. When the ball does get up front, it usually bounces off Dessers and ends up in the front row of the stand. There's nothing about Rangers for the supporters to cling on to as a sign that, that this is turning round.
Yeah, that is a diabolical stat, I have to say.
Oh, it's scandalous.
Obviously, I went through the games in my head after you mentioned it, and they all came back to me pretty quickly.
Yeah, it was Tom Lawrence at Tannadice, wasn't it?
Lawrence at Tannadice, and that's it. It's at the moment it is going backwards, and it's not getting any better. And I'm not seeing where he's going here. I really don't see what's happening. I don't know what's going to change yet, and something has to happen fast. Because as I say, I feel like since the final whistle at Rugby Park, it's changed. I sense a change in the mood amongst the fans, and he's now looking at Clement as well as the club.
See, before we go into the comments, guys, just on the William Hill thing, Keith, I mean, do either of you think that's kind of a bit poor from the league sponsor to be putting out odds like that on one of the biggest clubs' manager getting sacked, or is that just part of the course? I mean, they are a bookmakers after all.
I don't like it, personally, and I remember there been previous books on managers when they're in jobs, and personally I don't like it, but it is the way of the world, isn't it? There are bookies that they exist to part people from their money.
Keith, if you're a betting company, you're gonna lay bets.
Yeah.
I mean, when you
That is the whole
when
point.
you sign the deal,
That is the whole business model.
They haven't just cooked up the sack race betting since taking charge of the Scottish Premier League.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how you could be insulted about what are St Mirren fans going to be insulted because they're 10-1 at Ibrox on Sunday.
No, listen, it's a personal thing for me. I don't particularly
Just in
like.
general, the sack race, I don't think.
Yeah.
I can understand people don't like it, but I mean, this has been going on for 20 years.
Yeah,
Rickies have been doing this for.
It's the betting business. But I also feel that when it does get to that stage, and these headlines are coming out, it's really difficult to pull it all back
The
in.
problem is,
Turn it around.
once you reach this stage, Philippe Clement can now have 3 excellent performances. But as soon as the next bad one comes, you're right back. Once you get to that stage, you know.
I tell you what's
it's a
funny,
problem.
if Philippe Clement pulls out 3 really good
I
performances
just picked
on
a
the
number.
trot, I'd be
I picked
stunned
a number at there, but you know what I mean.
the numbers themselves, they're self-explanatory.
Yeah, I know, they don't look good. They do not look good.
It's a real serious issue they've got. And now, over to John Gilligan, the guy that's come into this absolute madhouse of a football club as it stands right now, in the capacity as a caretaker chairman. Is he actually really going to sit down and say, right, we need to sack the manager? Or does he think, right, do you know what, all I need to do is concentrate on getting things right getting the appointments right off the park, getting, permanent chairman, getting a chief executive, getting a director of football, make all these appointments, and then, guys, see what, as soon as you're in the door, you might have a decision to make here?
I think that is the case, Keith, because what do you do? Do you remove a manager, put a new manager in place, and then start bringing in all these people above him, and then they're like, I don't fancy the new one. I mean, that's I don't think that's possible. To be honest, I don't think so. It's Philippe Clement. Philippe Clement is just going to have to get this right and get it right quickly, but the signs are not there that he's going to do it.
He's struggling badly. I don't think he can turn it around from here. So if I'm John Gilligan, then I'm thinking to myself, if I can't make a permanent appointment, do I press the Graham Murphy button and go temporary. Put somebody, I'm not suggesting for a second it's Graham Murty, but put somebody in charge until the end of the season and hope that he gets something out of him. It really is a mess. I genuinely, I'm struggling to work out how Rangers play it from here. Because I think they're going to end up with a situation, and it could happen very, very quickly with Pittodrie on the horizon.
A week Wednesday.
Yeah, if the Rangers fans, what is it old Boris Johnson said, when the herd moves, the herd is moving. It's moving.
Me about politics.
It's moving all around right now. And it's difficult to survive. It's almost impossible to survive.
Yes. Listen, that game at Pittodrie's, you already see a big sucker around it. We talked about it yesterday. St Mirren are struggling. St Mirren are struggling in recent games. That was a bad result for them at Tynecastle last weekend. Rangers really have to take care of them in the next game at Ibrox. But even if they do, and Aberdeen take care of their business at the weekend, Aberdeen could go 9 points ahead of Rangers after 10 games. That's not sustainable.
Yeah. I mean, again, come back to these stats, the 50% win rate since that 3-3 game against Celtic at Ibrox. 50%. So Michael Beale had 72% and gets sacked. Van Bronckhorst 59% sacked. Steven Gerrard 64%. And Pedro Caixinha, as we've discussed, Swanee, I think you were there that famous night when
he was
kicking around in the shrubbery.
Yeah, it was Percy Thrower. It was like Shawshank Redemption. He was wading through the bushes and getting to the fence and looking through the fence at supporters. It was a crazy night.
I'm still laughing, Keith, at you calling him the man in the bush. It sounds like one of those films that come on Channel 5 on a Friday night rather than the Shawshank Redemption.
I don't know what films you watch on a Friday night, Daniel.
What time is it, Daniel? Seriously.
Deary me.
Sorry, didn't mean to lower the tone. I apologise. Given it's the hotline, guys, we have plenty of comments in from Rangers fans.
Swanee's asking if you can send him a link to that film.
We'll talk later. Some of these are quite long, so bear with me, but a lot of Rangers fans certainly seem to have a lot to get off their chest. Watching live on YouTube, Rangers easy okay. Lucky enough to get tickets for most games. Yesterday, the away support turned, and when the away support turns, the manager is done. I could accept if we lost 1-0 and McCrory has a stormer and there's patterns of play, but there is no style, no patterns. And speaking to fellow fans, I think we would all now prefer if we had the manager in the home dugout yesterday. That's interesting. And he follows up by saying next month's AGM will be absolutely mental.
Daniel, can I just break in there just to say something that I think that's a very good point made there, because home supports can be a bit grumpy and grisly for kind of no reason, or demanding and they're expecting this. We usually find the fan base that goes away from home are the diehards. The diehards, and they usually stick with the team through it, and when they turn, that feeds into the narrative that I've been speaking about, that it felt like a sea change yesterday at Rugby Park.
The interesting thing, Swanee, they took banners, but the banners weren't directed at Philippe Clement.
Yeah.
I'd rather...
That's what I mean about it. It felt to me like the guns were being aimed away from the pitch until full time yesterday.
But again, it comes back to it's the manager's job, right? Okay, there's all sorts of mayhem going around about the place. Clubs in turmoil, vacant positions all over the shop. But the manager's got one job, and his job is to perform and get performances from his players on the pitch.
Yeah.
And I don't see what all the noise and all the, the carnage around the boardroom, I don't see how you can use that as a manager as an excuse to deflect away from what the punters are seeing on the pitch. Because what they're seeing on the pitch, there is nothing there. There is nothing there.
And how many ex-players, when they come out of the game, you hear them asked about, this is happening in the board and this, and how did that affect you in the dressing room? And they all go,
didn't
affect us all. We're just a football team. We didn't bother. We got finished training, got our cars, and off we went. Our job was the football. So it's an easy one, I think.
Yeah.
To kind of give the guys a pass, if you like, for not performing, but it can only go for.
But again, Swanee, I come back to it, right? And I've been saying for a while about Clement. I describe myself since the start of the season a Clement skeptic, because I've really been struggling to see what it is that he's trying to achieve with this team. But I also then look back at the fallouts that there's been about losing a player like Todd Cantwell for buttons. Now, whatever anybody thinks of Todd Cantwell, he makes that starting 11 better. There's no question in my mind about that.
definitely.
Hadji, don't want him. Not good enough to be a number 10 for Rangers. Will never be a number 10 for Rangers. Now he's citing it as, oh, well, we don't have Hadji. He's suspended.
Yeah.
He threw the Casemiro under the bus a little bit by blaming him for the goal that Kilmarnock scored, for Marley Watkins' goal.
And
thought
Jack
as well
Butland.
Keith
And Jack Butland.
No.
So,
Although, in fairness, I thought, in my view, as a manager, is perfectly entitled to say my right back should have been out quicker.
Yeah.
You know, and the goalkeeper was caught in 2 minds. I know that. I'm not sure that's a
one excuse
big
after the
deal.
next.
Yeah.
He needs to take some responsibility. What is he doing to make things better? Because I see no signs of it. And I wonder, you know, about some of the big personalities. Dujon Sterling's another one who looks to me as if he's got a bit to say for himself, probably in the dressing room. He's getting marginalised. Cantwell out the door. Hadji didn't want to know. Connor Goldson's away, big part of the leadership sort of group. Lundstrom, big personality.
Are you suggesting that anybody who may think that he's not
Yes.
doing it the right way
I
voices that
think,
opinion, and then
I think that he might like a certain type of character in his dressing room, but the type of character that he likes are very unlikely to be successful Rangers players.
no,
Because you need to have a voice.
yeah,
You know, you look at what would Barry Ferguson. I mean, we saw what happened with Barry Ferguson when Paul Le Guen was there.
Yeah.
What happens if the manager is not strong enough to deal with big personalities inside the dressing room? What happens? You get runs of results like we're examining now with a 50% win ratio.
I disagree with that.
Let me run through a few more of these comments, guys, because some of them actually make really good points. John Bruce, for Rangers fans to be 6 points behind Celtic after 8 games is unpalatable, but 6 behind Aberdeen after 8 games is unthinkable. After incredibly extending his contract till 2028, now entirely possible Rangers can't afford to get rid of Clement, but can they afford to keep him? George McLeish says, this is the worst Rangers team I've watched in over 60 years. The players and the manager are a disgrace to the good name of Rangers. Not fit enough, too slow, with no pace anywhere on the side, and capable of defending long high balls. No leadership anywhere. The manager only plays favourites who are all rubbish. Scott McAdam. Who remembers the magician saying, watch us go in October? Well, here we are, Phil, and I dread to think what November will bring. The only thing you should be pulling out your magic hat, Phil, will be your P45.
I was wondering where that was going.
And
and
Daniel, a point I believe, you know, I don't want to hark back to yesterday's show, but, you know, I believe there was a point made that Jimmy Tillene at Aberdeen has blown this whole theory out the water about time needed.
Yeah.
You know, if you can go in and, you know, it's not just, you know, there was excellent recruitment made, but he's also turned some players around, Jimmy Tillene. And you know, guys who weren't getting anywhere and not doing so well, and he's found different positions for other players. Look at Jamie McGrath on Saturday at Celtic Park. Absolutely brilliant for Aberdeen. You know, he's revitalised him, and that's done so quickly.
Yeah, rapid.
But there should be.
But the style of Aberdeen's
And I was
team
just going to say,
and play has been completely revamped and you know, completely made over in the space of But he managed to achieve that from almost day one.
Yeah.
So
And that's,
you're right.
and that's when Philippe Clement's saying you'll see the best in October, and you're already kind of going, well, not sure about that, but okay, wait till October and see how it's flying. Well, the point was made yesterday. It's October.
Yeah.
And it's
well into
it's nearly November.
It's very nearly Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
Watching live on Facebook, guys, George McIntyre is asking, what do you guys think Rangers need to challenge? You guys watch Rangers week after week. To do sack Clement, they need to find the money to pay off his contract, and then the new guy needs money to strengthen. I know that's obviously it's quite wordy. I'm not asking you for a comprehensive answer on that, but
Daniel, a goal scorer. But what happens in both boxes covers up a multitude of sins. You can get away with playing some pretty average stuff if you've got guys that can keep the ball in the net and someone at the other end who can score. Now, I'm not going to go back to the Lawrence Shankland thing yet again, but I'm using him as an example with Hearts last season. There's a lot of games when Hearts didn't play that well, and Lawrence Shankland bailed them out with a goal. And they won games they maybe weren't entitled to win, or got points from games they weren't entitled to get a point from. And that is not after timing. That was something that was said all through the summer transfer window. Mm-hmm. You need to get yourself a proven goal scorer. And
Hasn't come as a surprise that serial deaths.
Some of the patterns of play that you maybe think you might see and you're not seeing, and that you can get away with that. You get away with that if you get somebody who can nick you a goal. Yesterday, Rangers were awful at Rugby Park. But after 70 minutes, if somebody can just engineer something, score you a goal, and you get out there
up the
1-0,
road with 3 points.
you go up the road and you go, that's a sign of a good team. No playing well and winning games. That's everybody could see it as clear as the nose in your face that was the problem in the summer.
Interestingly, Swanee, I take your point. I think you're right. But the other thing about style of play and patterns of play and all that, see if you've got a fully functioning centre forward, that helps bring whatever it is, whatever system it is that you're trying to implement. If he's your focal point, well, it's pretty helpful if he can trap the ball, control it, hold off a defender, and bring his teammates into play. And if he doesn't, and if he's the focal point for how your team wants to get up the pitch, then it's going to break down. It's going to look like what it looks like.
Yeah,
I know
everybody knew that. Everybody knew that, and knew the deficiencies that were there going into the summer.
I noticed yesterday, Keith, just on that I don't know if you guys spied the same, but the midfielders from Rangers, Lawrence, even Conor Barron at times, they've just stopped running beyond Dessers. I noticed that several times yesterday because they know.
But Daniel, that's what you do at any level of football. Any level of football that anybody watching this has played. If the ball keeps coming off your front guy and he can't hold it, if you're playing in centre mid and you're busting to get from your
What's the
box
point?
to get to the other one and he
But
loses it, and then you're having to get a taxi back
Aye.
to your own box to help again, you just stop doing it. You just stop doing it.
Aye.
It was like in the old days when two guys played up front as a partnership. If the big guy wasn't winning the flick on, the second striker in behind him, his partner didn't make the run in behind because he thought he's not going to win this.
Mm-hmm.
So you just thought, it's just natural. You just do it. So you're right, Daniel. Guys stop doing what can be natural, instinctive things, moving themselves into places where they think they would like to be because they just don't see that it's going to be joined together.
And if that's the case, what's the manager doing? Because the manager's got to see that for himself.
Well, as Andy Newport said yesterday, signing a £2 million kid who's not ready to play in the first.
No, but I'm talking about in-game
Or during
stuff
the
here.
game.
Yeah. I mean,
I said this yesterday. I don't know what's you try something. I don't know what, but you try something. You put someone on, you move Barami inside. You try anything. I don't know. Try something.
Yeah.
But don't just let it peter out the way it's going. Because if it's not, you can see it's not working. You just, as you said yesterday, you're just hoping that something happens.
That's it.
You've got to be proactive and make something happen.
Yeah.
Like Jimmy Tillane was at Celtic Park on Saturday. He was proactive and made something happen.
I tell you, well, you could almost, and unlike me, I guess, but to cut him a little bit of slack, Clement, you look at the players Aberdeen put on from the bench. They've got more quality sitting on the bench than Rangers had. They've more game changers sitting on the bench. He's actually, not only has Jimmy Tillane reinvented the way that Aberdeen play the game and made it, modern and full of energy and exciting to watch, but his squad probably looks as deep, if not deeper, than what Clement's working
Keith,
with.
that's an excellent point, and again, I don't want to sound as though I'm after timing, but I remember sitting at the game on Saturday and speaking to one of my colleagues for one of the other papers, and we were looking at the team sheets and saying, look, Aberdeen bench, pretty strong, that. It's, look as though they've got players that can, there's no lightweights on there. And again, coming back to making players better, you look at guys like Shane Morris. Shane Morris last season, you look and you think, well, he's gone nowhere. And now Shane Morris is coming in and affecting games, and he's coming on, and he's just making players better. Everything just seems to be working for him. Clement doesn't seem capable of doing this similar.
Before we move on from Clement, guys, I'm going to put you both in the spot. Do you think he'll be there at Christmas, or do you think he's not going to last?
I'll revert you to my previous answer. Who's going to make that decision? Because I don't think Rangers will have a chief executive. Maybe they will. Maybe, what was that? Was it John Gillan said, the dream is to have a chief executive before Christmas. So if they don't have a chief executive and they don't have a permanent chairman, I don't know who makes the decision. I don't know if John Gilligan would take it upon himself to make that decision. I rather suspect the answer to that is going to be, as Swanee sort of touched on, when the away support starts to get restless and starts to point a finger towards the dugout and blame the manager, it could get pretty unpleasant for all concerned, and it might get to the point where, temporary chairman or not, he might see that a decision has to be made. But as we've discussed, do you make a permanent appointment of a manager?
I don't think you can.
So what do you do? Where do they go?
Wow.
You're looking at me as if I'm John Gilligan. I don't know.
Answer the Swanee.
I just keep going back to the fact he needs to just do something, sort it out for Rangers. I mean, listen, it's all still in Philippe Clement's hands. As much as I can't see it happening at the moment with the evidence I'm seeing in front of me, you go and win at Pittodrie, you go and win the League Cup semi-final, which you should be doing against Motherwell. You keep yourself in there, and then you win that cup final, and all of a sudden you're starting to make inroads again. But
that's the thing, Swanee.
My own personal feeling is that's not going to happen, but that's still in his hands.
If they go and win 2-0 at Pittodrie, so all of a sudden it's turned around.
In his hands. I mean, I don't see it, and what I'm seeing just now from both teams, I don't see it.
There's zero evidence to suggest that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But you're right, it could happen, and he comes back down the road, and then the fans are won over again, and everything's positive, and I think that's now becoming an unlikely scenario.
It's just difficult to envision as you sit here right now.
Yeah. Okay, well, I dare say we will be discussing Philippe Clement and Rangers throughout the week as we go on in the Hotline Live. But
and next week, and
next week, and the week after. Yeah. But for now, we have been in touch, Keith, with the Hotline Live's resident referee expert, Mr. Des Roach. You caught up with him a little bit earlier on to talk about some of the big decisions from the weekend in the Premiership, and here's what he had to say.
Well, it's that time of the week again, Monday afternoon, when we look back at the weekend action. We're joined by our resident referee to talk us through some of the main decision-making issues over the weekend. Des Roach, it actually wasn't too bad, was it, this one? Not too many contentious issues, some big decisions at Celtic Aberdeen, but I actually thought pretty much spot on the match officials got it.
I think it's probably as good and a consistent weekend that we've had since the season started. And I know we're very easy to criticise decisions and criticise guys, so I think you've got to give them credit for having a very good and consistent performance this weekend. Yeah,
it was Nick Walsh at Celtic, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah,
it was Nick Walsh.
And I actually thought he was, I know that VAR plays a role in some of the big talking points in that game, but I thought his in-game decision making was good. I think VAR sort of backed up what he had seen and what he'd given, apart from obviously I don't think anybody realised at the time that Duk had used an arm or the ball getting into Celtic's net off his arm. Again, good use of VAR, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think in what you've seen now, Nick's very comfortable. I think it's not a question that he is our number one referee. He's obviously working extremely hard during the game, getting the decisions, selling decisions. The players are accepting it. Very, very rarely you see Nick getting crowded and get a lot to send at him. And again, as we're going to come on to the Duk handball, it was done, it was dusted, had a look at it, right decision done, and back on with the game. So no, I thought Nick done very well. To say it's obviously because he's working extremely hard during the 90 minutes.
Before that as well, I think he made the on-field decision to chop off Adam Ida's header because he'd spotted Alistair Johnson taking out the Aberdeen keeper on the goal line. I'm right on that. That wasn't a VAR. He called that during real time. Yeah,
I'm sure that was Nick that called that. I don't remember VAR being involved. And again, it was a good spot because it was quite a crowded penalty area.
Yeah.
But Alistair Johnson, he knew exactly what he was doing. He was just backing into the goalkeeper, so quite rightly, no goal awarded.
And then the one, the Duk on the line, was it a penalty kick? Some people still adamant that it was. What was your view on that one, Des?
I don't think it was. I think the ball clearly hits his thigh or his hip, and it's then come up and potentially made hand. It wasn't clear. We never really got a 100% view of it.
It wasn't clear.
And if you can't see something and be 100% sure on it, then you can't give it, because that then goes down to taking a guess. And we've seen what happened last year with the offside Aberdeen and Livingston, where clearly that was a guess. So we can't have that. So yeah, fully justified in not allowing that.
That's exactly the words that I used last night. That I don't think that the actual VAR, the video, the stills, none of it's really crystal clear. And because there's a camera, it's behind Duk. So you're right. You actually have to use your imagination to give a penalty kick there, and you can't do that.
Absolutely not. Could you imagine if there was a penalty kick given at that moment in time? that's game changing, and then that's Aberdeen, all momentum coming out of them. So no, you can't guess.
Okay, there was some half-hearted Rangers penalty appeal at Rugby Park in the first half. I think it was a shot from Hefty. I think it deflects off Command defender, off his boot, and then up onto the arm. The rules seem pretty clear on that. That's not a penalty kick, although the handball rule seems to change every week, Des. But
it seems to change week by week and country by country.
Yeah.
It's not a hard and fast rule. I don't think it's a penalty kick. As you said, again, it's come off another part of his body. It's a reaction. The ball's hit him. He's not hit it. And I think that's where, certainly I've always been a long advocate. When you're coming for a handball, you have to make a deliberate action for you to hit it. You're either making yourself bigger or you're getting out to punch it. It can't be that it's a maybe. So hopefully now seeing a bit more consistency
I was going to say, are we finally getting round to common sense here? This is...
Oh, come on.
I know, but I'm not naturally comfortable with siding up with the officials, Des, as you well know. but everything this weekend, as I said, I can't argue with any of it. Dundee United Hibs, Joe Newell sent off. What was he thinking about with that tackle? It was madness.
Madness. I mean, as we said as well, he's the captain of the club. He's supposed to be setting the example. They're really struggling, and he goes and now takes himself out for a few weeks through a needless tackle that's now going to cause him a suspension. I just no idea what he's thinking, but I'm not being paid to be a footballer.
Yeah, again, perfectly justifiable decision. I think the first one might have been soft, but he was on a book and you can't launch yourself into a tackle like that. And I think the only other two game-changing issues, the 2 red cards that Ross County got, St Johnstone, Elijah Campbell and Charlie Telfer. And again, Des, I hate to say it, I agreed with him.
Come on, you'd actually say that with a smile on your face. It was a clear and obvious foul that is, and I don't, because you don't want to see people getting sent off, but everybody in the stadium understood exactly why Campbell's sent off by having 2 yellow cards again in quite quick succession. And Charlie Telfer, I don't think for one moment that he's meant to hurt the boy or he's meant to go in the way he did. He's just turned around. He's been caught. He's jumped in at the tackle. Unfortunately, he's caught the guy higher up the leg. There is no option. It can't be a yellow card. It's a red card for serious foul play.
Do you know what, Des? You could tell by Charlie Telfer's reaction. Even he knew.
Yes.
Yeah, he didn't mean to do it, but he knew it was a red card. Disappointingly straightforward, the referee's corner this week, Des.
Well, we'll take it when we can get it, because I don't think we'll all have too many Mondays like this.
Aye, well, that's true. Okay, Des, well, listen, thanks for joining us again. Your expertise is always welcome here, and I'm sure we'll speak to you again at some point in the next week or so.
No problem at all, Keith.
Thanks, Des. Cheers, mate.
Absolutely livid, Keith. Can't be having that. Like green.
What time are you meeting Willie Collum for dinner, Jack?
This is rubbish.
Des Roach there.
We can't have these referees getting decisions right.
Absolutely.
Thinking about.
Aye. Madness.
That's great. Fantastic.
I think he's right about Nick Walsh, by the way.
Yeah.
He's improving. He's really grown on me, Nick Walsh, as a referee. I think he is our best.
I thought it was good on Saturday. Yeah,
So
I thought it was good on Saturday. I thought the game moved along at a good pace. It was hurtling along anyway. There was 1 or 2 times he could have got his book out earlier for a couple of boys, but he tried to be patient with them, and a couple of times he could have just let the game go, and he demanded free kicks be made in taken from certain areas where he seemed a wee bit pernickety. He had to do something.
He's a referee. If he wasn't a referee, he'd be a traffic warden.
That's nitpicking. He was good. Nick picking. I like that.
There you go. You should work for a newspaper.
Future in this game, Swan.
Honestly, yeah.
Before
not a very long one.
Before we wrap up Monday's Hotline Live, guys, let me throw this at you. You've had quite a strong response to our chat yesterday on Edinburgh's Big Two. Neil here on Facebook says he'll always be a club legend for scoring against the goal that won us the Scottish Cup, but David Gray isn't the man to manage Hibs. We need someone with experience and not a rookie boss. And we've mentioned that a week on Wednesday, Rangers against Aberdeen could be a pivotal game for Philippe Clement. I already feel that this Edinburgh derby coming up is absolutely pivotal for David Gray. It could decide his future, I fear to say.
Yeah, you might well be right. It's a big game for Neil Critchley as well,
It's
isn't
a
it?
massive game for both of them. We touched on this yesterday, but obviously not everyone would have been watching yesterday. So yeah, I think it's huge. It's huge for bigger for David Gray, I would say.
Yeah.
Because Neil Critchley's just in the door. He's got to win his first game.
Yeah.
He'll be cut some slack for a while. But David Gray, this really is a monumental game for him. Hibs cannot afford to lose this game.
I said yesterday as well, Swan, that the fact is that I think Hibs would have been quietly gleeful about the mess that Hearts have been getting themselves into since the start of the season, and then all of a sudden they wake up and they look at the league table. How did
Do you
we
know?
get
Do you
to
know
the
what? Do you know what I think? A lot of people, and of course I don't count Hibs fans in this, who are the main people who count, because they would have been aware of it. But it was almost like it was happening in the background that most people hadn't noticed, because everyone was concentrating on the chaos at Hearts.
And meanwhile,
kind of
Hibs were
didn't
just
notice that
slowly slithering down.
Didn't notice that Hibs were continually messing up and putting themselves in bad positions and losing games, and it kind of, then Neil Critchley got appointed, Hearts won a game, and you looked at Hibs and went, oh, I just lost 2 goals in injury time.
It just happened here.
Oh, bottom, I see. A lot of people outside were like that,
Yeah.
you know. Obviously, the Hibs fans have been well aware of it since day one, and
But
it's not good.
Look, I know I get annoyed about stuff, but you know, we were complaining last season when the Edinburgh Derby wasn't being streamed live, right? And this one is, right? So we've got an Edinburgh Derby to look forward to, and that's great, and it packages up Scottish football. We didn't want it to be a basement battle between the two sides at the bottom of the league. You
relegation
like to
playoff.
think, aye, exactly.
No, in fairness, I think
It does add a bit of spice.
I was
but-
going to say, yeah. I mean, if you're not the top two, you might as well be the bottom two.
Aye,
Make it
well,
exciting.
put something on it. I
The,
guess.
the one thing I would say is, and this probably isn't going to be a popular opinion, and probably won't be if things continue to happen. If you're going to appoint David Gray, you know the pitfalls that come with it, because it's your first job, You've got to stick with him. You cannot give him the job and then it doesn't go right for the first couple of months. And I know that's not going to be popular. And I know the Hibs fans are going to say, well, we need to sort it. And other people will say, well, how long do you let it go for? Do you wait till we're in the championship until this is sorted?
You've also got
I think when you make that appointment, you have to give him a chance
Go
to
for the
turn
long
it
term.
round. I think so. Now, if you get to Christmas, fine. If you're not seeing any signs, then I think you're entitled to say, well, David, because you play a large chunk of your fixtures before the turn of the year.
Yeah,
anyway.
we've
I
given
think
you
you're
a fair
entitled to
crack
say,
at it, but Pierre.
this isn't a fair. We haven't even got through the first quarter yet, and
yet we're having these conversations.
the
about
League Cup,
Clement.
the League Cup with Hearts and Hibs is different. No, that's different because Philippe Clement's an experienced manager who's been a manager in Europe and was there last season and has had time, so that's different. And I also think that the League Cup, now Hibs it was their own fault that they ended up not winning their group, but they got Celtic Park, whereas Hearts lost at Falkirk. So you could, you want to cut Hibs a bit of slack because, well, they lost at Celtic Park. But I suppose that is David Gray's doing for not winning the group and not getting the seeding. But I just think, as I say, it might be unpopular, but if you are going to appoint him as the manager, give him a chance.
And the other thing that would terrify me if I was a Hibs fan is, well, say they did decide to pull the trigger on David Gray, who are they going to appoint next? Because the scattergun that they've taken to appoint managers has not been an impressive one over the years, has
There's
it?
a manager sitting above the manager.
Yeah. That's an easy call. Get the big man down. I think Mike Malky might fancy that.
I mean, he has an experienced man.
Swanee, everything you said there, I completely agree. If you're going to appoint a guy like David Gray, you need to give him time. But having said that, with them being bottom of the league, do you think we're in the territory now where if Hearts say win 2 or 3-0 at the weekend, that they will be looking at maybe calling it a mistake and moving David Gray on?
Maybe. Listen, we know what football's like these days. It's short term. It's knee jerk. There could be panicky people there. I don't know.
And when the fans turn on the board, the easiest thing to do is to slit the manager's throat and throw him to the crowd.
Yes, I'm just making the point that if you're going to give somebody of that ilk the job, you shouldn't be throwing them out so early. I don't believe. But listen, I'm not sitting amongst the Hibs fans. I'm not the one fearing that it might be second-tier football next season if this doesn't improve. I'm not the one getting fingers pointed at me if Hearts win again. So
See, the thing that
you win another derby. So
and there's scar tissue with Hibs, isn't there? Because they've been there before. They've been in this movie.
Yeah.
They know what it feels like.
yeah,
You can
it's
see
easy
the
for
signs.
me to sit here and say, "Oh, they should give the guy time." You know, I get that. I'm not daft. I understand there'll be Hibs fans throwing things at us watching it. I do understand that. I just feel slightly sorry for younger managers if they get an opportunity and they get crossboard. But That is modern football, and I dare say when David Gray took the job, he would have been fully aware of the fact that if I am bottom of the league by the middle of November, there's a good chance.
I think you've made a fair point, Tony. I think you're right. I think that I believe there might be pressing of the panic button if they lose the Edinburgh Derby. Yes, I do. Do I think there might be a knee-jerk reaction? Yes, I do, because we've seen Hibs do it so many times before. But I think in this instance, you're right that it does deserve to get through this and to see if he can stabilise it and see what it looks like. Because coming up around Christmas time, I think that's probably.
And I also, Keith, sorry to butt in, but just something that you spoke about yesterday. I think it is very important. There is a clutter of players there from the last 4 managers.
Yeah, doesn't make it easy.
It's still, I don't know exactly what's going on behind the scenes, but there'll be guys who probably want to get out, but they're maybe on contracts.
Yeah,
it's a difficult situation he's been placed into. I was the one who said yesterday it's disgraceful at the bottom of the league, and I stand by that. They shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
But I think you should be given a chance. I think.
You're generous guy, Swan. You're just a kind-hearted man.
I know, but I can change like the weather. Maybe different next Monday.
Say what you want about Scottish football, but there's never any dearth of fascinating storylines. Some massive games coming up.
No, we haven't even talked about Dundee United tonight. It's been sensational.
Aye,
as well.
absolutely.
So many storylines in Scottish football. It's great. Yeah, and that game with Aberdeen and Dundee United this Saturday will be a tremendous game.
The new film.
Back, both of them up flying.
That's what we
Pittodrie's going to be absolutely rammed. You're going to have a big travelling support. It's a brilliant game. And I think if I got this right, Daniel, I could be wrong. It's Saturday night.
I think it is a league kick-off. The Jim Goodwin derby.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it is brilliant. And do you know what? There'll be Rangers fans looking at that thinking, it's the best result that we can get here.
Aye.
Because Dundee United are right on their coattails now, just a point behind. They could actually do with Aberdeen beating Dundee United.
Yeah, I'm not taking that seriously. I'm not taking that seriously. Dundee United are not going to challenge Rangers. I'm not having that. Right
now, the challenge that you've got up at the top end of the table, you've got a race for first and second, and developing as a race for third and fourth. And that's why Rangers fans should be taking a look at that Dundee United game. And I wonder what result was the best result for them.
I disagree.
On that note, guys.
I know you don't.
On that note, guys, I think that brings us to the end of Monday's Hotline Live with Record Sport. We had tons of comments in, and thank you very much for sending them in. We will be back to do it all again tomorrow at 6 p.m. Keith, Swanee, thanks as always.
Yes, good evening, Daniel.
Thank you, Daniel. Good luck.
I hope you have a better night than you did today.
Yeah. Well, I won't be crossing hold my breath in my car, but aye. Thanks, guys.
Stick my quick fit overalls on. I'll be over on an hour.
Thanks, guys, and thanks for watching at home as well. Cheers.